Skara Brae is an incredibly well-preserved stone village containing an intricate maze of dwellings with stone beds, lintels and cupboards. It dates back some 5,000 years, long before the age of the Egyptian pyramids. The site was revealed in 1850 by a violent storm. The best preserved home is still covered over and not open to the public, but a replica has been built which you can go round. The Birsay Earl's Palace is the second of two palaces built by Robert Stewart and his son Patrick. Robert was an illegitimate son of King James V of Scotland, and the palace stands monument to Robert's royal pretensions and his oppression of the people of Orkney. These days the condition of the ruins makes it difficult to imagine how the palace would have been in its heyday, but it was an exceptionally fine residence. For centuries, political and religious power in Orkney centred around a small tidal island called the Brough of Birsay off the northwestern corner of the mainland. Access to the Brough is restricted to a few hours each day at either side of low tide, when the causeway across is clear. This not only meant that the island had a prime defensive position, but was also an ideal base for sea travel south, north and east. The earliest settlement on the Brough is thought to date back from the 5th century, perhaps Christian missionaries. By the 7th century it was a Pictish stronghold, and by the 9th century it had been taken over and built over by the Norse. Most of the remains seen on the Brough today date back from its final Norse period of use, giving buildings ranging from 800 to 1200 AD. On the way from Birsay to the Broch of Gurness, we passed Einhallow Sound, where the west-going tide produces the overfalls known as Burger Roost. For yachts passing east to west from Kirkwall to Stromness, there is no avoiding the roost without going right round via Scapa Flow. The overfalls do not happen on east-going tide. At the Broch of Gurness, we could still clearly hear the Burger Roost, which was just visible on the horizon. The Broch stands in the centre of a small stone village surrounded by houses and ramparts. It was firstly home to the Picts in the 1st century BC and was later occupied by Vikings till around the 9th century. Brochs are double-walled, with a space between containing corridors and staircases. The barnhouse complex just below Maes Howe is slightly earlier than Skara Brae, and the central hall is a much bigger structure. Where once religious ceremonies took place within the stone circles open to the entire community, by the time the hall was built, things seem to have changed. The rituals and religious ceremonies now took place in an enclosed space that was accessible to a select few. Maes Howe is the finest chambered tomb in Western Europe. Built before 2700 BC, it was raided by the Vikings in the mid-12th century and plundered of its treasures. Maes Howe is interesting because of the various runic inscriptions carved into the walls. That is Viking graffiti. This is one of the best known collections and includes the Maes Howe dragon, a very well known Orkney icon. During the winter solstice every year, the sun shines down the long entrance passage and lights up the back wall. There is a tour for visitors, but it's quite cramped. From Maes Howe you look across two lochs with a narrow isthmus in between. On that isthmus stand the standing stones of Stennis and the ring of Brodgar. The standing stones of Stennis were originally a circle of 12 stones with a diameter of 30 metres, but now there are just 4 uprights. The ring of Brodgar is one of the finest stone circles in the world. There were originally 60 megaliths. Today only 27 of those stones remain. Scapa Flow was the main anchorage for the British Home Fleet during both the First and Second World Wars. After the armistice, 74 ships of the German High Seas Fleet were ordered into Scapa Flow to be interned. They arrived in November 1918 and stayed there for 10 months before they were scuttled. Most were salvaged for scrap, and only 8 scuttled ships now remain in the flow, where they are a major attraction for divers. In October 1939, U-47 managed to pass between the Orkney mainland and Lamb Home into Scapa Flow, avoiding the block ships. She torpedoed HMS Royal Oak, which capsized and sank. Of the 1,400 men on board, 833 lost their lives. Churchill visited the site in 1940 and ordered causeways to be built between all the eastern islands to prevent a recurrence, and Italian POWs provided the workforce for the new Churchill barriers. The Italian chapel is a basic World War II Nissen hut, which Italian POWs decorated to form their chapel, using just locally available materials. It is still occasionally used for services. Perched above the dramatic South Ronaldsay cliffs, the Isbister chambered cairn, better known today as the Tomb of the Eagles, was discovered by chance by local farmer Ronnie Simison in 1958. The Stone Age tomb revealed an amazing collection of bones and artefacts placed here some 5,000 years ago. He sealed it up and told the authorities and waited for it to be excavated. After 20 years he gave up and did it himself with the help of some archaeology students. These will never be the same again. We then went to watch England play Germany in the World Cup. Needless to say, all the locals were supporting Germany.